Buying other businesses and buying other plugins, in my mind, it's just, a good jump start.
Starting a software company from scratch is a lot of work. And at times you may think, well, how can I get there faster?
Once you realize that you have some money or that you have more money than others, you also realize that it's a lot easier to start from something than to start from nothing.
This is Gordan Orlic, CEO and founder of WebFactory and an acquirer of more than 30 small to tiny WordPress companies. A strategy highly relevant for small to medium-sized businesses hungry for growth. And Gordan himself started out where many WordPressers do.
I believe most people start like this. We started with client work, but I hated that. And as luck would have it, I uploaded a few scripts on Envato's Code Canyon, and we immediately got some sales.
And though he's become the leader of a relatively big operation, Gordan maintains a very personal, down-to-earth, direct approach. What would you say is your mission?
Mission? There's no mission. The mission is to cut down the amount of shit that you need to do in life that you don't like. I'm aiming for doing 10% of the crap that I don't like, and then doing 90% of the things that I do like. Having an idea and just doing it without thinking if it's gonna make money or not. I really like that.
Gordan is here today to share the best of his insights and the worst of his experiences in making micro acquisitions.
A fun story. So I'm buying a plugin and this red flag comes up and we can't agree on how we will transfer money and assets. But I like the plugin and I need it. I think I need it and I want it more than I should. And then I get fucked. Seriously. So I refuse to transfer the money and then wait for the assets. So we agree that I'm gonna pay for a plane ticket for this person to come to Croatia, and then we do business, real time, real life. We sit on a table, we eat something, we shake hands with 2 guards at the door, right? And we leave our guns in the lobby. The person sends me their passport and I buy the ticket. Send the ticket over. It's all good. He's gonna be on the plane tomorrow morning and head out tomorrow evening.
Don't worry, I will get back to this story a bit later in the video. But first, let's look into why Gordan goes into the trouble of making these acquisitions to begin with. So obviously you're fully capable of developing software on your own. Why would you go out and acquire anything rather than just build it yourself?
Acquiring a business, regardless of its size, means that you are instantly starting from, 2 steps above zero, 3 steps, 4, 5 steps. So you're not testing an idea by asking people what do they think. They gave you their money, so you know it's good.
So what's your personal involvement in the acquisition process, given that you have a team?
I wouldn't say I do everything, but since it involves paperwork and legal work and a lot of money usually, then I do 90% of the work, while the rest of my employees chip in with some ideas or fears, or they do a little bit of research. So yeah, when it comes to this, it's basically everything's on me.
And what was your first acquired plugin?
I know the first plugin that we purchased. It was the under construction page plugin. I think it had 5,000 installations or maybe 10,000. It now has 500,000 or 600,000. As usually things happen in life, we didn't buy it with the assumption that from now on we're just gonna buy plugins. We bought it because we wanted to test things out. We wanted to see, if we buy a plugin with a certain amount of installations, can we then grow it faster than we usually did from scratch? And the answer is yes, you can definitely grow it faster. So again, an experiment. And I say again because most things that I do, I don't know how they're gonna end. You just have to do it and hope for the best.
So you're basically saying no guarantees for people trying this at home.
I emphasize this because I see a lot of people claiming they have recipes for success or recipes for growing a plugin or for earning a certain amount of money. And they claim to have these recipes based on doing things once or twice. No, you had luck twice. Like, do it 10 times and then come to me with a recipe and I'm gonna pay for it. But if you did something once and you're claiming that you know how to do it, that's just not true. There's not a lot of things that I did 10 or 20 times with the same success.
And how many brands do you currently own?
We own about 30-ish plugins. I wouldn't call them brands per se because there is a huge difference between the amount of resources that we invest in certain plugins. So for instance, WP Reset, which could really be called a brand, we've invested a copious amounts of money and time and resources into it, and we still do. Some were bought as pro plugins, some were bought as free plugins on the repo, and then we made the pro version. Some were bought on the repo and they just stayed on the repo. It really varies from plugin to plugin.
What typically characterizes a plugin worth your investment? Like, is there a golden thread?
As difficult as this is to admit, I have to like the plugin. So this is purely subjective. It can be the best plugin in the world and bring the most money in, but if I hate it and I see that my team will hate it in a month, we're not gonna buy it.
So rather than putting any other consideration first, financial or strategic, Gordan emphasizes the team's joy of working with an acquired plugin that they admire. And in the case of the WebFactory, these plugins are nearly always back-end focused plugins.
For instance, what we would never buy some kind of a front-end builder, like Elementor, Beaver Builder, something like that, because the amount of support we would have to give, it's insane. So I know that we would be getting tickets like, oh my god, my button is not the right shade of blue, and oh my god, my button is 5 pixels to the left. Obviously, a lot of themes out there that wouldn't be compatible with our plugin, but we would be the ones to be blamed. So great business, great plugin, not saying otherwise, but it's not for us. So we need to like it to some degree, and then the numbers need to fit in what we see that it's okay, so that we feel that we can pay for this and get our money back, at least in theory, in some like 2, 3, 5 years.
What does that mean about your target's financial records in terms of, profit, revenue, growth?
We like those that have a small, steady growth. So when you look the stats and you look at the graphs, there's a growth. It's not exponential. I don't like that from experience. So I need to see steady growth. I don't want any spikes. I don't want people telling me it grew 500% in a year. I just want to see a steady growth.
And why is that so important? Like, what is there not to like about spikes?
Because A, spikes come and go, usually just once. And B, whenever we did anything that had a significant spike, whether it's in income or in amount of users, we had problems with it. So let's say that you have 10 tickets a day for a plugin. So you obviously plan for 10 tickets. You have a certain amount of people handling those 10 tickets. So all of a sudden now you have 1,000 tickets a day. How do you handle that? You didn't hire 100 people ahead of time because that would just waste money. So you have a huge shortage now. So all of a sudden your support sucks. You had a response time of, let's say, 6 to 12 hours. All of a sudden the response time is 5 days. Then you need to create one of those auto reply emails. Oh, we're so sorry, it's COVID, we won't reply, I don't know, in a week. I hate that. I literally cancel subscriptions for products we use when I get those kind of emails. I'm paying you, I don't care about your hurdles, hire more people. So if I have to do the same thing because we had this huge spike, I will feel that like we're doing a bad thing. We're not doing business as we should. We're not serving customers as we should. So, okay, now I have 1,000 tickets a day and somehow I manage to hire another 100 people or whatever. A month passes, numbers go down, we go down to 10 tickets again. So what, now I fire all those people? They barely got onboarded. So a huge amount of resources will go into handling the up and the down. That's why I don't like spikes.
Another important point to consider when it comes to the financial aspect of an acquisition in the freemium market is that there are indicators other than revenue that will determine the potential financial value. What kind of revenue do you look for?
I don't care that much how much money it makes, because I believe that we can fix that relatively easily. I then wouldn't really care if, I don't know, there's 100 top 10 lists and it's not listed in any of them. Not a problem, we'll get into those lists. But if there's a continuous stream of people that have a problem that you're fixing and that you're able to fix, that's the way to go for me.
So do you check the reviews, like the public opinions on products you acquire?
Oh, yeah, obviously. So, it's especially in the repo, it's crucial to see how people feel about a plugin. This doesn't speak of its quality. It has nothing to do with its quality. It exclusively has to do how people feel about it. It can be the best plugin in the world, but for some reason people think it sucks, it's buggy, it's whatever. I'm not sure if I can fix that, because fixing how people feel, I'm not in that business.
Does it matter how many owners the plugin is passed through?
For instance, I had offers for plugins that changed like 7 owners so far. When it's a free plugin, I don't really care. But when it's a paid plugin, I do care, because I will be getting emails for all of those 7 past owners who did something wrong to those customers, who will be expecting refunds or just be pissed off at somebody, and they're gonna be pissed off at me. So ideally, I would be buying a plugin from the first owner / creator.
So now that we've covered the reasons to purchase a small plugin business, let's look into Gordan's acquisitions process. And the process that ends with transferring the assets to the new owner begins with the negotiation of a plugin's price. So say you like a product and it's had a nice steady growth, how do you then evaluate the price of the acquisition?
Without knowing any details at all. So you just told me it's $500 a month. 2 times, so that's 6,000 a year. So x2, I would ballpark it at around $10,000 without knowing anything. Literally without knowing anything. Once you give me some insights, like you have 0 recurring revenue, it's all lifetime deal, lifetime licenses, that's a problem. because you're selling me something that has a pretty long tail. I need to maintain all those customers and serve them for years to come without getting any income. So then I won't be looking at 2x, maybe 1.5, so like 8 or 9,000. On the other hand, if all of the income is recurring and customer lifetime value is high, maybe we can talk 2.5x, maybe even 3x, but that's like on the upper scale. Also, how are you getting those customers? Are you using paid traffic? If so, what are the costs? Do you have a free plugin on the repo? How is that doing? So in general terms, I would say something from 1x yearly income to 3x yearly income, but it heavily depends on a lot of variables.
And here's another acquisition valuation variable. In the negotiation process, who initiates the communication will have an impact on the final selling price. Okay, so say we initiate a deal. What do you prefer? Do you prefer having people contact you, or would you prefer being the one reaching out to them?
Reaching out to somebody and asking them if they want to sell has absolutely nothing in common with them initially saying they want to sell and then you say, let's do this. It's purely a psychological thing. When people decide to sell, they're ready to do it. They thought about it for a week, for a month, maybe for a year. This idea grew in their head and they're ready to do it. They obviously have a certain price in mind. Maybe it's realistic, maybe it's not, doesn't matter. So a certain part of the process is already done. However, when you reach out to somebody and out of the blue you say, would you want to sell your business? That part of the process hasn't happened yet. So they probably never thought about it. They don't know how much it's worth. They don't know how much they're going to ask. They're not sure if they actually want to sell it. So what happens then is something along these lines. Well, I never thought about selling it, but if you offer me $10 million, I may be interested. So all of a sudden, you're not paying for the value of the plugin. That's completely irrelevant. You're just replacing the plugin's value in that person's mind. So it's their baby, it's their child, and you're taking that away from them. So the actual worth, it doesn't matter. It's how you can emotionally compensate them for that loss. In short terms, you'll be paying a lot more than you should. So whenever possible, I prefer people contacting me and saying I want to sell instead of me reaching out and asking, do you want to sell? Not 100% rule. Obviously, sometimes deals do go through in a decent fashion, but I definitely prefer people contacting me first.
Now, going further into the process, what kind of problems do you encounter most often?
One of the biggest problems that continuously pops up, actually Freemius eliminates that problem. So the most common issue is you have some recurring revenue, but it's impossible to transfer that revenue from one company to another. That happens at least 50% of the deals that we look at. So all of a sudden, this great revenue, this recurring revenue, the revenue that everybody is striving towards, it becomes a burden. It becomes an expense instead of an income, because we can't transfer that from that gateway account to another gateway account. Now, those who are thinking, well, people will resubscribe or something like that, no, they won't. That doesn't happen. So you sending out an email telling to people, look, let's cancel your current subscription, and then you have to re-enter your credit card info just to switch payment gateways because we did something. Nobody's gonna do it. People hate that. It's basically the company that you're using to process the money. They need to play along to a certain degree, and usually they don't want to do it. That's just lost money.
Isn't there any way to bypass that? For people who are not using Freemius?
There are solutions to it. They're not simple because they depend on trust. For instance, you can agree that for a year or 2 or 3, the income will continue to come to the previous owner's account and that he will transfer that money monthly to you. I've done that. It works. It's not a problem. It's all good. But a huge amount of trust is needed here in order for that kind of agreement to work.
What other red flags come up in the process?
Another red flag would be transfer/escrow related things. So after everything's said and done, we have a price, we know what we're transferring, now we need to actually transfer. Ideas like, you send me the money via wire, and when I get the money, I'll transfer things over to you. No. Fuck no. This is the first time we're doing business. I'm not transferring over 100K and then just hoping that you're gonna do the right thing. Not an insult, not anything against you, but I just love my 100K a little bit more. So we either need to use escrow, or we need to use PayPal in a certain way, or we need to meet, or something.
This is particularly relevant for small acquisitions of businesses owned by solo developers or small teams that are less business savvy. And this is where Gordan's story from the beginning comes back in.
So I'm buying a plugin, and this red flag comes up. And we can't agree on how we will transfer money and assets. But I like the plugin and I need it. I think I need it and I want it more than I should. And then I get fucked. Seriously. So I refuse to transfer the money and then wait for the assets. So we agree that I'm gonna pay for a plane ticket for this person to come to Croatia. And then we do business, real time, real life. We sit on a table, we eat something, we shake hands. So the person sends me their passport and I buy the ticket. Send the ticket over. It's all good. He's gonna be on the plane tomorrow morning and head out tomorrow evening. I'm gonna pick him up. Everything's as it should be. That morning, 10 minutes before I'm leaving for the airport, he messages me, I wasn't able to make the flight. End of the story, he wasn't on that flight.
I mean, man, it seems like you knew what you were doing to have set up that meeting. And typically speaking, is there any other structure for compensation, other than 100% cash up front?
I was offered a lot of things, like pay me for the plugin and hire me, or buy 50%, or pay me a percentage and stuff like that. I don't do those things. Life is already complicated enough without getting into those kind of deals, at least for me. People do it all the time, especially bigger companies. They take over the entire company. So you sold a plugin and now you work for that company. I'm not doing that. Either me selling or buying. I'm just not doing that because for me, it complicates things too much. In regards to plugin doing good or bad after a certain amount of time, If I'm buying something and I'm now in charge, I'm now in control, then I'm the one to blame. Only me, not you. I bought it from you. It was good in January. It's now August and it sucks. That's on me. I lost money. That's my thing. It's no longer good. Let's move on. So paying more or less after, 6 months or a year doesn't work for me. I want a clean exit. Either when buying or selling, let's make it clean. Also, I don't spend money that I don't have. So I'm not paying you something now and then something in 6 months. I'm not doing that. I either have the $100 or I don't. I'm either paying for it now or I'm not.
However, no matter how well you've set up your preferences and have all your red flags mapped out, sometimes, and whoever has experience in business knows this, some attempts won't work out for the best.
You need to test and see what happens. So sometimes we buy plugins, we keep them for a while, we see that it's just not a good fit for us. We had some ideas that were not realistic, or the plugin seemed like it's something else that it's not, so we then sell it. We don't buy for the purpose of flipping, mainly because you can't earn as much with flipping as you can with a steady plugin income.
Flipping is a term very common in markets like real estate, where investors buy a rundown piece of property, renovate it, and profit from selling it. And though Gordan does not recommend it as a strategy, he's the only person I know who's actually flipped WordPress products. When will it make sense then to flip a plugin?
The only time we flip is when the plugin is not a good fit for our company. Now, some may say, well, why didn't you do your research? You should have thought about it before you bought it. True. I should have done my research, should have done this or that, but I didn't. I bought it, tested it, kept it for a month or a year or whatever. It's not a good fit, I sell it. Sometimes I lose money, sometimes I earn money. It's all good. It's all in the game.
How do you do it?
Okay, so let's say you want to flip a plugin that has only the free version. In that case, the biggest, almost the only number that people are going to look at is the number of installations on the repo. So for the sake of the argument, let's say you buy a plugin that has 10,000 users and then you want to get it up to 50,000 users and then sell it. Getting from 10,000 to 50,000 is difficult for most plugins and impossible for a lot of them. So the amount of resources that you would have to invest to get from 10K to 50K, it's a lot. And it's difficult to say how much time would it take. But let's say that you can do 10K a month, so that would take you 4 to 5 months. That would also mean that the plugin is now 5 times more. It's worth 5 times more than it was before, but it's not. It's not linear. It doesn't work like that. And the price is heavily dependent on the niche the plugin is in, because obviously some niches yield bigger returns, some don't yield any returns. So let's say it takes you 5-6 months to get it up to 50K. So now you're selling a plugin that has 50K installations.
And what would you actually do to get there, to improve the value of a free plugin?
Obviously, in that time, you would probably make a website for it. You would do some link building, maybe do a few articles. You would make it look decent, build up the value. But by the time that you're done with it, I don't think that the increase in price you were looking to get would justify the amount of time you have spent building that plugin. Maybe the code was bad, so on top of everything you have to rebuild it, or fix some significant parts of the code, so that costs even more. And everything that I just noted entails that you are a coder, a marketer, that you have a lot of time. So, it's difficult to do it as a one-man band. So flipping in those terms, not the best idea in my head. On the other hand, if you bought something that already has an income, so it has a pro version, some money is coming in, and let's say it's earning $300, maybe $500 a month. Flipping that, in my mind, a better idea.
And why is that?
Why? Now, if it's earning, let's say, $500 a month, it's not that difficult to get it to, let's say, $1,000 a month. You can achieve that with a better pricing strategy, get the prices up, get a better pricing table, a few psychology tricks. It can be done very easily. There's a lot of articles out there that explain how to do it. You fix a few bugs, you build a few links, get a few articles going. So once somebody confirmed that a plugin can make a certain income, it's not that difficult to scale it up. Obviously, scaling from 1 million to 2 is more difficult than scaling from a few hundred to a few hundred more. The reason why I am mentioning a few $100s a month, that's not a random number. I really do know that the majority of plugins make from 5,000 to 10,000 a year. So it seems that is some kind of a plateau most people hit, because for them, that plugin that they're selling, it's not their core business. They have some other business and this is a side gig. So that's why they always, linger from 5 to 10K a year. And when you're going to purchase plugins, smaller ones, smaller plugin businesses, I guarantee the income is going to be around 5 to 10K a year. And from experience, I know that you can double that.
And how do you improve the performance of a plugin if you want to flip it?
Identify your weakest channels. So you don't have a repo plugin, a free version, get a free version. You're not utilizing paid traffic, try it out. You're not utilizing affiliates, try that out. You never did any SEO, do that. You never did any content marketing, do that. In order to get to, let's say, 50K, in my mind, you need to try everything out and you need to have all of your channels covered. It's very difficult to get to that kind of income with just one single channel. And even if you do that, I would always be afraid that channel is just gonna flop 1 month. So if you want a 50K, cover all your basics. You don't have to be the best SEO guy in the world. Just don't suck at it. Just do every channel decently and make sure you have all of them covered. That will also enable you to see what channel is the best for you. Then you can focus on that. But I would keep it, because building and fixing and growing anything, it's not a 5-minute job. So once you invest a few months in it, in my mind, if it works, keep it, don't flip it.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Gamechangers. Any last bit of advice for developers making their first acquisition?
Don't expect to get your money back in like 5 days. If you bought a pizza place, would you expect to get rich in 1 week? No. So why the hell do people expect that with any internet related business? If you get your money back in like 2 or 3 years, that's decent. That's normal. That means that you're earning at a normal rate. Screw all of those get rich fast schemes and ideas, because they're just gonna get you frustrated and you won't achieve anything. So as long as you can pay bills and move forward and develop that plugin and, move one step ahead each month, that's good. Strive towards that, not towards GoDaddy contacting you and telling you that is the best plugin since sliced bread and here's $10 million. Yeah, that may happen, but it probably won't. And if you're continuously dreaming and waiting for that to happen, you're just going to be frustrated and you're not going to be doing a decent job. So lay off the get rich fast schemes and just, go by it week by week, month by month, and you'll be fine.
If you've enjoyed my call with Gordan, take a look at some of the other videos we've released so far. And stay tuned for upcoming videos by hitting the subscribe button.